So just taking a few minutes to sort of ride your breath, to just notice the rhythm of it. And whenever you notice that you're thinking, which might happen, just bring your attention back to your breath. It's a very natural thing for us human beings to think. And in this practice, we try to really stay in the present moment. And our thoughts tend to take us away. So our breath can be a reminder of what's present, what's here. So I'll ring the bell just to signal a few, maybe 1 or 2 minutes of complete silence. And remembering that we don't really need to do anything else than simply to sit and breathe.
So we are a group of people who feel and who see that things have to be different, in education, and we want to help the system, which is one of the oldest systems we know, the educational system, to actually change into a system where our students can be, learning from their heart, and where teachers are healthy, and where we create learning communities more than what now is the case, that we sort of, ask our students to jump through the hoops of the educational system to get a degree, and from there, their life starts. So I want to make education more meaningful and more, purpose-driven. For me, that is MoveMakers.
It started in 2013 December, when Diana and Perret were actually accidentally visiting Vilnius because they wanted to see Vilnius, but they ended up in one of our events, staying in my apartment, and then the last night before going to the airport, they were staying in our office. And we started talking and dreaming, and lots of sentences starting with what if? And we thought, what if we could meet more often? What if we could learn from each other? What if we could involve other education innovators from Netherlands, from Denmark? What if we could visit inspiring places? And what if we could start similar schools and initiatives in our own countries, in Estonia, in Lithuania? And what if we could learn as a community together?
The purpose of MoveMakers is 3 things. So the first one is to be a house for educational rebels. So we're a community, we're a platform to host people that are passionate about educational development and learning, and give them a place to exchange ideas and grow. And that leads us to the second part, which is this is a platform for professional and personal development. So the 35 participants in the MoveMakers project have been exchanging ideas, has gotten inspiration, and has tested out new projects. And they're now bringing that energy and wisdom back to the local context in order to improve and work with the perception locally. And it's a slow, ongoing change, but I think they're new change makers or educational rebels spreading out. And then it's also a platform to co-create new ways of learning. And I think that's a big promise, saying that we are co-creating new ways of learning. But as I said before, it's a laboratory where we're testing out things. And the important thing is we ask the question, how do we make great learning spaces?
In one side, I see that there are many great things happening in the field of educational learning. So I do see initiatives that are trying different ways. I do see people who are passionate, and there are many wonderful change makers all over the world. I think one thing that has come really to me is that you cannot do this work alone, but quite often I feel also that being this change maker, it doesn't matter really what context you are, is quite a lonely journey. And I feel that it has also, for many people who have joined our learning journey, has been because I want to find people with whom I can do that. And it also makes sense in that level that otherwise we would maybe find only one way, a very narrow way. Because if we learn to work with diverse group of people, we might find more than one road to that, or more than one exit from things that do not work. I also feel that in general, the world we are living, we are just coming more closer to wanting to live in a more meaningful way. Like I see that why do we work in systems that do not support us? I think we have become more mindful, we're noticing more, and we're also able to speak it out more. Also for Estonia as a country, knowing where the background and where we come from, where everything has been told us, and I think we are also naturally now discovering that, but hey, whether we want to future happen to us, or we are taking the stand that we can actually shape it. And I would like to see us more being the one who are shaping and taking this responsibility, this vibe, that we can actually do that.
Because I was going through this kind of questioning about my role in education and not finding myself in the right spot at the moment, teaching in a big university. And somehow the idea of being with a group of people that wanted to do things differently and maybe search answers for questions that I also had made me very curious.
Well, first of all, it was actually meeting all the co-travelers, all those people who signed up in the different countries to be on this learning journey with us. So it was opening up the field and getting to know each other. I think that was a very important aim for that lab. Another was to explore the field of education in general. So we talked a lot about education, what's happening in the different countries. And we actually visited some schools, both formal and informal, in the Netherlands. So we went on excursions to sort of map the educational system. And I think that was our point of from where we started our journey.
My biggest learning in Lab 1 was, I remember I walk into this room and there's the circle of chairs, and the room is set up really nicely and warmly, and it feels like there's really somebody who's sort of making it all happen. And then we sit in a circle and I wonder, so who is the organizer of this thing? And I look around and I cannot really recognize him. And here stands up one person and he starts to speak, and I think, oh, so that's the host, that's the organizer. And but then suddenly the person sits down, and then there's another one, and then there's another one, and I at some point realized that, oh, it's a team of people that are running this. But as the day goes by, I also sort of get duties to do, and suddenly I become that host myself, who hosts the space, things that we do after the day or in the morning, and suddenly I find that community organizes itself. It might sound simple, but in my understanding, I have always thought that somebody has to be in charge to make something. But here, people got together with the purpose of learning together, and that purpose somehow became that leading goal which made everything work.
I have spent the last 3 or 4 years maybe searching to find other people who I felt, related and connected to, and because I felt lonely. I really felt lonely. What really made me cry in Lithuania actually during the Art of Hosting course, I think it was Mary Alice who said something like, "It is time for the lonely wolves to leave the dark forest behind and to join the campfire." And that really was like, because for such a long period I felt like a lonely wolf. I mean, I have wonderful friends, I have great family, but in my passion for, how life could be and yeah, I felt really lonely, and because of that I was, you know, searching for partnerships and okay, what if I work together with other people? And my whole journey through MoveMakers brought me back to this place, me, that it's just me. So no partnerships, but situational, you know, I work. And now I have this big, crazy bunch of people who are my family. And I feel really like, okay, if an opportunity turns up, you know, I can sense, is this something that I feel that I'm, you know, allowed and invited to do something? And if so, who else is, you know, wanted in that kind of environment or question? And then I can just make a phone call, which is wonderful.
We also sat around World Cafe tables and we shared the best experiences that we knew about education. And we sort of came up with a harvest of what we think the good education could be. And naturally, there was sort of feeling that I want to do it.
The purpose of Lab 2 was to prototype new ways of working with learning. I think we did that in two ways. One way was to invite people into a Danish context to see what is happening in Denmark. How are people working with education and what can we learn from that? And the other thing was to work on specific prototypes from our local contexts. So we are participants from 5 different countries and we brought in projects that has just started or is going on in the local context. So it's being a project for a course at a university in Lithuania. It's being a new project of Hack Your Education in the Netherlands. And these projects are connected to the people in MoveMakers, and we've been working on them, Lab 2, to improving them and making the conditions to test out how these can be thriving examples of new ways to approach learning.
One was that really concrete feeling that we even visualized when we were working with making sculptures with Lego about crossing a portal. And that portal was, personally for me, leaving the old system and entering something that I didn't know what it was. So leaving my old job of 20 years in a university and realizing that by taking that decision, I was moving forward to the unknown. But at the same time, I was surrounded by people that understood what that meant.
But one thing that came clearer to me at Lab 2 is how important it actually is to involve the body in learning, which is something I didn't have on my horizon before in a way, and how limited words are at a certain point. And although I trust very much in words, but like for learning and for really making something change in your mind and in your perception, it's also very useful to know how to involve the body in this.
As a teacher, I invite the kids, in which age, to reflect what they do. And they can reflect it, that's very important, in their own medium. If they are a surfer, I invite them to look how they surf. If they are a dancer or a boy or a girl which enjoys math, I bring them role models, papers, ideas, clips where action and reflection happens. And that's for me very important to go out of the box and to look from outside to the move.
It is in a way a closing of a project. So these people that were brought together in Lab 1 met again in Lab 2, came up with some great ideas in Lab 2, and then had this 6 months between the two labs to test out their ideas. So one of the purposes was to bring us together to see what did we make happen. What kind of ideas in education have we tested, and what has been our learning from it? And how can this be taken forward in a sense that are they worth developing further? Are they worth replicating or modifying for different contexts? Or are we simply saying that was a bad idea, you know, let's skip it?
Learning is a lot about actually putting something into action. That in a lot of times you learn about beautiful ideas or really things that inspire you. But unless you manage to take it into your daily life, I think the learning is still a little halfway. And what I found is that I have started to put a lot of things that I have learned here into real practice. And having the chance to really experience things here in this group in a rather safe environment, it means that also I have kind of more knowledge and understanding of how to create it.
So I was able to link up with Diederik and Doc20 and actually turn my book into a curriculum at the Hogeschool Leiden in the Netherlands. And we were able to build a curriculum that was for first-year students, first-year university students, and then also high school students that were coming into the university for the first time. And so we were developing this prototype, which was something that had never been done before. And the whole idea of hacking your education implies, you know, really taking ownership of your work and taking ownership of your future and the work that you're doing in school. And so linking up with the MoveMakers was great because we were able to take, you know, their ideas of, you know, their suggestions and put it into this prototype and actually test it out. And then I was able to, you know, come back for the third lab and actually share with them the results of this prototype, and it was very successful.
Nothing is set, and that everything is like sort of evolving and emerging. And I really like the future of MoveMakers to emerge and to happen. But I'm sure that it won't end after this lab. So something will happen.
I think that MoveMakers is helping to foster the future of education. I see these people who are all on their own individual paths as educators, as facilitators, but each one of them collectively make this group. It makes this tribe, and together we create a community of practice.
MoveMakers is now growing to be a house for educational rebels, and we're opening the door, inviting the rest of the world into this platform. So now it's not just us, but we're getting out there, and everyone that wants to be a part of MoveMakers in the future can join in, because it's about having peers that share the same passion and energy for changing education and our perception of learning. So specifically, I think it will be a network of educational practitioners within EU, and I hope that we will still do some continuous meetings and still be curious and still hold the important question, like, how do we create the circumstances for learning to take place?
I think it starts with daring to dream and not judging the dreams, of changing something that might seem difficult to do alone. Yeah. So I think MoveMakers is about dancing together. So when you're searching for that answer and you're searching for something that you want to change in education or maybe in other things in your life, MoveMakers is about taking that step, making that move together.
I think we need to ask ourselves a question, and that is, what are we educating for? What is the purpose of our education system? And when our education systems were put into place, what was the purpose at that time, and how has maybe this purpose shifted over time? And I have the sense that our education systems are no longer fit to meet the purposes that we would now name if we were asked, what is the purpose of our education system? If you feel you need to make a change in your organization and you feel shy to do it, just find a way to try it a little bit, you know, and get feedback, yeah? Instead of being frozen in your bad expectations.
MoveMakers has been like a school that we have created for ourselves. And that's coming back to, it spoke to me because it was my motivation to join this journey, yeah? Because I felt like there's something that I want to learn by experiencing it. So we design a journey to do that. And maybe it can go on because maybe we can identify some other things that we want to learn together. So we go on a second journey or on a third journey. So maybe that's the way how MoveMakers will go on.
I think the single most important thing is never to give up in the belief that we can improve the way we think about learning. So the educational systems we have today, some of them are so enormous, like they're big oil tankers. It will take forever to move them. But if we just turn the wheel a slight bit, then we can do it. And I think the system that we not all appreciate as it is now, it's not a steady thing. The system consists of all the individuals in that system, with the history and culture and rules and regulations. But we have the capabilities of moving that collectively. So being persistent on holding the belief that we can change, and then working with that every day, doing slowly progress, being an example yourself, and then inviting people into that vision.
Hardworking.
Listen.
Alignment.
Reflected civil disobedience.
Diversity.
Purpose-driven education.
Relations.
Community.
Raw education.
Alive.
Alignment.
Asking questions.
Ownership. Imagination.
Transform.